Hi, welcome to Starz Recapped. Today I'm going to explain an action-adventure movie called Furiosa-A Mad Max Saga, which was released in the year 2024. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A young girl named Furiosa is adopted by a man named Dementis after he kills her mom. As she doesn't like him, Furiosa refuses to say a word until she gets the chance to be traded to a man named Immortan Joe. Despite initially being happy with the trade, Furiosa realizes that Joe wants her to be his wife, so she starts plotting another escape. A few months earlier, Furiosa and her friend, Valkyrie, are plucking peaches from a tree when they notice that raiders from the bikers' horde have found their home in a settlement called the Green Place. Seeing as they are in danger, Furiosa sneaks down to sabotage their bikes, but while she's at it, she gets caught. Furiosa then blows her whistle to alert her mom, Mary, and the other people in the Green Place that she's in trouble. Unfortunately, the bikers take Furiosa with them as they leave, but Mary quickly follows them. She eventually manages to take down some of the bikers. And even though the chase goes into the night, she doesn't back down. As two of the bikers are left on their charge home, they suddenly realize that Mary is still coming for them. One of the men suggests ditching Furiosa, but the other one disagrees, saying they need to show the little girl to their leader, Dementis. As they continue their journey, Mary takes down one of the men, but she's unable to stop the other one, who safely arrives at the settlement of the bikers' horde. The man then insists on seeing Dementis, saying he has found a place of abundance. Since Furiosa knows that the man will put her people in danger by telling Dementis about the Green Place, she quickly sabotages his bike and gets him injured in his neck. Shortly after, Furiosa is taken to Dementis, who looks shocked to see a young, healthy girl. As his physician also looks at the girl, he mentions that Furiosa is very healthy, unlike anyone he has ever seen. Since this suggests that she's really from a place of abundance, Dementis asks Furiosa where she came from, but she says nothing. He then instructs the injured man to point them in the direction of where he found Furiosa. Before the man can say anything, Furiosa kicks him in his injured neck, after which he starts bleeding out. Instead of getting angry at what Furiosa did, Dementis looks impressed, and he tells his guards to treat her well and find her a place to rest. After a while, Mary sneaks into the bikers' camp and kills all the guards in her way before taking Furiosa away. Unfortunately, Dementis and the other guards are alerted to the situation, so they chase Mary and Furiosa. Shortly after, Mary realizes that the bikers will soon catch up to them, so she tells Furiosa to find her way back to the Green Place while she stays back to fight. Furiosa doesn't like this idea, but Mary tells her that it's for the safety of the Green Place. She also gives Furiosa a seed, which she tells her daughter to plant later in the future. Mary then sets Furiosa on a path home while she waits behind to fight the bikers. Even though she puts up a good fight, she eventually gets caught. While she's then being crucified, Furiosa can't seem to take this, and she returns to stop Dementis from hurting Mary. However, she's powerless against Dementis, who makes her watch the death of her mother, after which he adopts her as his daughter. Days later, Dementis starts taking Furiosa on his scavenging hunts, and she also witnesses some of his savage acts. Even though she remains silent and refuses to say a word since Mary was killed, Dementis's history man tries to get her to talk, saying that if his boss finds her valuable, he'll always protect her. Furiosa still refuses to say anything, but she then draws a star chart of the Green Place on her arm. The next day, while the horde is out again on a hunt, they see an injured man from a settlement called the Citadel. Since it's another place with abundant vegetation, Dementis leads his men to challenge the authority of the Citadel. When they get there, Dementis lays down his intention of taking down the Citadel, but the leader of the place, Immortan Joe, doesn't seem moved. As Joe walks away with his entourage, his sons, Rictus and Scrotus, led their soldiers to attack Dementis and his bikers. During the attack, someone almost kidnaps Furiosa, but Dementis saves her and takes her away. After he then regroups with his men, they find a place called Gastown, which is an oil rig that supplies the Citadel with gasoline. As they monitor a supply truck from the Citadel leaving Gastown to return home, Dementis and his bikers eventually seize it. He then covers some of his men in white paint so they can deceive Immortan Joe and find their way in. Unfortunately, when Dementis and his men leave for the Citadel while pretending to be chasing the supply truck, Immortan Joe notices something odd and refuses to give his men orders to open the gate. Seeing as his plan is not working, Dementis decides to make it look real by killing some of his men, who are already covered in white paint like Joe's men. With this, Joe allows the gate to be opened, but it turns out that some of Dementis's men have sneaked in after hiding under the truck. As they reveal themselves, Joe realizes that he made a mistake. One of Dementis's men then passes a message to Joe, informing him that Dementis wants to strike a deal to be in charge of Gastown. Joe is pissed by the offer, but he says he'll still welcome Dementis inside so that it will be easier to kill him. Quite interestingly, as Dementis is invited inside, he brings in the leader of Gastown as well as a remote control to a bomb he claims to have planted in Gastown. Joe can't believe this, but since he has no choice, Dementis takes advantage of this and makes his demands, saying he wants more food and water for himself and his men when they take over Gastown. During the negotiations, Joe sees Furiosa behind Dementis and asks who she is. Dementis says she's his daughter, but this doesn't stop Joe from showing interest in her. As Joe then asks if she's really Dementis's daughter, Dementis says she hasn't said anything since her mom died. However, he is shocked when Furiosa responds to Joe and says she's not his daughter. She also adds that he killed her mom. Joe then mentions that Furiosa looks pale, but Dementis brushes it off, saying she's well. His physician also adds that Furiosa is very healthy. Following this, Joe says he'll agree to Dementis's terms as long as he gets Furiosa and the physician in return. Even though Dementis doesn't like this trade, he eventually agrees. After he leaves with his bikers, Joe orders Furiosa to be taken to a chamber for his wives. Since it seems Joe is trying to make her one of his future wives, Furiosa doesn't like this. Her disgust at the whole idea gets even worse when Rictus starts getting attracted to her. One night, after rejecting Rictus' advances, Furiosa starts cutting her hair and turning it into a wig. Days later, Rictus carries Furiosa out of her room in an attempt to take advantage of her. However, as he drags her hair, he realizes that it's a wig. Furiosa then runs outside and hides from Rictus, who eventually forgets about her when his brother asks what he's looking for. Following this, Furiosa starts pretending to be a boy as she works with Scrotus and some other men who are in charge of maintaining Joe's supply vehicles. One day, while Scrotus orders the men to pull up a truck, one of the cables gets loose, so he points to Furiosa to jump down and attach it back to the truck. Despite being scared, Furiosa does quite well, and Scrotus promotes her to be in charge of directing the crane. A few days later, Scrotus and Rictus then inform all the men in the manufacturing plant that they'll be building a war rig that can withstand attacks during their supply runs. Furiosa joins them at work, and after a few days, with the war rig nearing completion, a man named Praetorian Jack arrives at the manufacturing site. As Furiosa wonders who he is, she eventually learns that Jack is the one who will drive the war rig because he has always been successful with Joe's supply runs. After the war rig is finally completed, Jack drives out to Gastown to get a supply of gasoline. Unfortunately, they get ambushed by one of Dementis's allies, who is tired of Dementis and how he has been running Gastown. During the attack, the war rig's engine malfunctions, so Jack tells a member of his crew, Black Thumb, to go down and fix it. As Black Thumb then goes under the truck, it turns out that Furiosa is also there with her bike, which she plans to use to escape when they are far into the wasteland. Unfortunately, she eventually loses her bike, and as the attack intensifies, Black Thumb also gets affected. Even though he then looks shocked to see Furiosa under the war rig, he gives her the tool she'll use to fix the engine, after which he dies. Luckily, Furiosa is able to save the engine, and with this, Jack gets to fight off the attackers. After a while, Furiosa climbs to the top of the war rig, and Jack looks shocked to see that she's a girl. Despite this though, they work together to fight off their attackers and kill all of them. Just then, Furiosa tells Jack to stop the war rig and leave it for her. Instead of doing this, he fights her off and eventually leaves her alone in the middle of nowhere. As Furiosa then wonders where she'll go next, Jack returns and tells her that since he has lost all his crew members, he'd like her to join him so they can rebuild. Even though she initially hesitates, Furiosa agrees and leaves with him. A while later, Furiosa becomes just as good as Jack, and after a trip to a place called Bullet Farm, he gets her a gun and tells her that whenever she's ready to leave his crew and head home, he'll support her. Days later, Furiosa joins Jack on a trip to Gastown to get some gasoline. Unfortunately, the settlement is already in chaos because Dementis turned out to be a bad leader. While they're then loading the war rig with gasoline, Dementis comes out to meet them, and Furiosa sees him for the first time in a long while, though he doesn't recognize her. As Dementis then laments that he's tired of how everyone blames him for ruining Gastown, he requests to have a meeting with Joe and the other rulers. Jack agrees to pass the message, but he says he won't leave until his tank is full. However, as the people in Gastown attack the war rig, Jack is forced to leave with Furiosa and the rest of his crew. After they then return to the Citadel, Jack tells Joe about the state of affairs in Gastown. Joe and his sons are disappointed to hear this, and they start thinking of how to deal with Dementis. Shortly after, they tell Jack to empty his tank and go to Bullet Farm to get all the weapons he can find so they can prepare for war. Later that day, while Jack and Furiosa are alone, he sees the star chart on her arm and asks where it leads, but she doesn't tell him. As he then says he only wants to help her get there, she shows him the seed Mary gave her and tells him to follow her home. The next day, as they head to Bullet Farm, Jack devises a plan to make Furiosa ride one of the smaller vehicles behind the war rig, which they'll then use to escape since it has 2 bikes on it. When they get to Bullet Farm, though, they notice that the entire place is silent. As they then realize that Dementis has taken over the place, Furiosa manages to drive out before the gate is locked. Jack gets stuck inside, and after killing some of Dementis' men, he tells Furiosa to leave without him. She refuses to do this and eventually heads inside to help him. While she's at it, she almost kills Dementis, but he gets the upper hand and shoots a missile in her direction. Luckily, she survives, and Jack then uses the war rig to crash the place where Dementis is standing. Following this, Furiosa helps Jack so they can leave together. Dementis also gets help from his men, so he leads them to chase down Furiosa and Jack. As they start shooting, Jack gets hit, and Furiosa's hand gets broken. With nowhere to go next, Dementis crashes their vehicle, after which he expresses his disappointment at how they tried to kill him. Out of anger, he then gets Jack tied to a bike, which then starts moving fast in circles while Furiosa sadly watches with her broken hand also tied to a truck. When Jack dies, and Dementis is calmer, he goes to check on Furiosa to decide what to do to her. However, it turns out that she has already escaped by completely breaking her hand, even though it's the one with her star chart. Unfortunately, she doesn't go too far before she passes out after losing a lot of blood. Luckily, an unknown man sees her from the top of a hill and takes her to the slum areas of the Citadel. When Furiosa wakes up, she looks scared as she sees herself in a room with severed body parts. She then runs outside and tells one of the guards who she is. Since they all know her, they let her in so she can quickly speak to Joe. When she meets Joe, the Citadel leader is already planning to raid Gastown because that's where he expects Dementis to be. However, Furiosa tells him that Dementis is not in Gastown, and that he's trying to lure Joe out so he can take over the Citadel. Even though he initially has doubts, Joe eventually believes her and sends some of his men out to make Dementis think they're leaving for Gastown. Shortly after, Dementis falls for this and is lured into Joe's trap. During a 40-day war, Joe's men are able to crush Dementis and his horde. Meanwhile, Furiosa has now cut her hair and attached a mechanical prosthetic to her broken arm. After staying on the sidelines for too long, she finally decides to head to the battlefield to take down Dementis, whose army has already been crushed. As she arrives at the battlefield, Furiosa steals Scrotus's vehicle so she can chase Dementis, who is already escaping. After a while, he notices that someone is following him, so he tells his remaining loyalists who are riding with him that they have to go separate ways to deceive her. Interestingly, his plan works, and Furiosa follows someone else, thinking it's Dementis. However, while he's resting, Furiosa finally gets to him. Dementis tries to escape, but his bike has already been destroyed. As he also tries his gun, he notices that she has removed the bullets in them. Following this, he surrenders and tells her that he has nothing to fight for again. Furiosa then asks if he remembers her, but he says he doesn't. As she then mentions what he did to her mom, Dementis finally realizes who she is and looks shocked to meet her again. He says he has been waiting for her because he knows she's just like him. He also adds that she has the potential to control the entire wasteland, but Furiosa says they're nothing alike. Even though she's now tempted to kill him, she decides against it and takes him back to the Citadel. There, she then plants the seed her mom gave her while using him as fertilizer to grow the tree. After a while, Furiosa goes to meet Joe's wives and offers them a chance to escape with her. Despite losing the star chart leading to her home, Furiosa still leaves the Citadel at night while getting Joe's wives to hide under the war rig, which she plans to use as her getaway vehicle. This is my explanation for the movie, Furiosa-A Mad Max Saga. So what do you guys think about the movie? Write in the comment. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.